All right, welcome to week 4 for English 123. We're already halfway through the session, moving closer and closer to that final draft. Bit by bit, each week that goes by is a new piece of the puzzle, and that's really what this is. This is a process, and this is going from one step to the next. Is what we're really trying to work on. You just finished the annotated bibliography, which is an important part of this process. As we discussed, it really helps you know your sources, know what those sources are about. We've done some work on your thesis statement, some preliminary work on your discussion board post. Um, so that's going to become more and more developed as we move along. So remember, this is a process of development, getting our gathering our information, our resources, our research, really doing a lot of critical thinking, a lot of analysis with those sources, thinking through what we want to do with our paper, what's our purpose with our paper, what's our goal, what's our audience. All those things have been considered. Uh, you know, there's been quite a bit of time spent on those things. So I hope you're making progress. I hope things are going well. I hope it's been a productive process for you in the last week or two, because this is really where being productive is going to be very important. You're still researching. You're still looking for sources. For the annotated bibliography, of course, there was 8 sources required. For the next upcoming assignment, the proposal for this week, there's also 8 sources required. And so these 8 sources should be sources that are going to appear or could potentially appear in your research paper. Now, there's always the possibility that one could be, swapped out for another one that you may find that is better. There's always that possibility that a source could, turn out to not really work that well in the long run, or you might find something better, or, you might find additional sources maybe beyond what you expected. But for this assignment, at this point, is going to be a minimum of 8 sources. 10 is a good number to shoot for, even maybe 12 if possible. But that's just to have some backup. That's just to have some sources in line in case you can't really find everything you need. And you really could spend all of your time researching. You want to balance that out. Always use discretion. Always try to balance out your time. Of course, there's always the goal of being productive and to accomplishing the goal of finding the sources that you need that support what you're arguing. But at the same time, that process can go on and on and on if you're not careful. So be mindful of the time that you're investing in that research. And again, if you're having trouble being productive in your research and really finding what you need, again, there's always the librarians to reach out to, and there's different means of communicating with them, whether through web chat or a phone call or an email or going in person. Reach out to them if you're not quite getting something that you need. They can certainly point you in the right direction. As I've said before, you can always reach out to me as well, and I can help you with that. But hopefully you're making progress, and and hopefully you're remaining comfortable in the process of all of this. So right now we are in the proposal stage. And I mentioned previously, the proposal is really somewhat of a commercial. It's somewhat of a highlight of really what you're going to be writing about. It's to give me, your professor or instructor, the opportunity to see or to have a highlight of what's coming, what's a coming attraction for your actual paper. There should be some content there that really communicates to me and really helps me to understand the essentials of your paper. So this is a formal assignment. It's a major assignment for the course. So it's your second major assignment. So it's certainly worth taking in consideration and really having a serious approach to it. So don't think that because it's a brief essay that it's something that can just be done in a night, or give yourself enough time to really work through it. You want to approach it with the same formalities as you would any other academic assignment, any other academic essay. You can take time to do a pre-writing session with it. You can take time to list your ideas, get your mind on get your mind kind of wrapped around the questions or the prompt, that's been given. Understand, okay, what's being asked of me, what's the information I need to provide, jot some things down, some thoughts down as far as to orient yourself, to direct yourself, to give you some kind of a compass to work with. It's really important. Pre-writing really is a compass. And so we don't want to underestimate its value. I mean, I just recently had to write an essay, and I had to use pre-writing, I had to use editing, I had to use revision, I had to use listing. So it's something that can be used for any formal academic essay. So that's what we're working on for this proposal. So again, you want to go through the stages: pre-write, drafting, and then some editing, proofreading, making sure everything is in order before you actually submit it on Sunday. So really spend the time and effort and the time in critical thinking through this assignment to where you're going to produce something that's up to the best quality that you possibly can. That's really what we're after, is the best quality paper, best quality work that you can put forth. So I want to talk about the assignment. Of course, the next coming weeks after this are going to be, the next week is your first draft of this research paper, and then the coming weeks are going to be the final drafts. Second draft, third draft, which are really revision drafts. They're really opportunities to rearrange and reorganize and re-strategize your paper. See what's working in your first draft. If it works in the second draft, you can always change it. But then, of course, by the third draft, that's the deadline. That's the publishing deadline for this course. So once you submit, it's done really for that final paper. It's published in a sense, if you want to look at it that way. So let's look at the prompt as far as for this week, the proposal. Now, the proposal for this is an essay format. It depends really in future classes what your your future professors may require for a proposal. They can vary. They can include things such as an outline, such as a discussion of research questions, a discussion of key terms and definitions. It can also include maybe a brief discussion of the background problem that you're going to be addressing, the research problem, in addition to research questions. It can require some kind of historical context maybe to be included. But really for this, it's going to be more of a formal essay format. So you're going to be asked to provide an essay that first presents your tentative argument or position thesis statement. So this is it should be a formal thesis statement, as we've discussed in with the what, the how, and the why. If you remember, the what is your claim, okay? The how is the forecasting of the main points of your paper, typically 3. And then the why is usually a because statement. So you would have your claim that is going to be demonstrated by ABC evidences. Some phrases in there as far as describing those evidences, the points that you're going to be making in the paper, the 3 main points. And then because, and then the reasoning behind that, why you're motivated to write this paper, what is really the value of really accepting what your argument is. Why do we need to consider it? Why do we need to listen or read what you are presenting? So be sure to present your thesis statement in that formal format. It's still tentative, of course. You can still make changes and still rearrange things, of course. But I want to see your thesis statement as it could potentially appear in your paper. Remember, a good way to cue the reader to your thesis statement is use that therefore transitional phrase, that conclusional phrase that cues the reader to know that this is a conclusion that's being made. This is the thesis argument that's being made. Therefore, one may argue the claim X by demonstrating ... ABC because, and then your reason. Or therefore this essay will argue your claim X by demonstrating ABC evidences because dot dot dot. Okay, so and that's not the only format that can be used, but I just use it because it's an easy format and it just follows along with the course content. So I recommend using that. It just makes it clear and easier for me to grade and to identify. Okay, they know, they have an understanding of the thesis format, thesis structure, that it's a conclusion, that it's an argument based on a problem that's being demonstrated in the introduction. Okay, so thesis statement, formal format for that. It's going to be followed by a one-page proposal that's going to be double-spaced, MLA, APA. Okay. Now you can use headings in this. You can use thesis statement, heading, then your thesis statement, then space down, and then begin your essay. And now your essay is going to be broken into 3 or 4 sections, which for a page-long essay can be broken into probably 4, maybe 3, good size development, fully good size developed paragraphs that really have some good substance to them. So from that thesis statement, you're going to then now present your reasons for writing about this topic. So what's motivated you? What's the real issue behind this? What's the real problem that you see? Why is it important? So what's really going to be the issue here? What are those reasons? And then you can, of course, explain why. So what and why for that? What are your reasons for writing about this topic, and why have you chosen those reasons? Why are those reasons important? Why are they significant? I would take I out of that. However, I would not necessarily say I've written or I've chosen this topic because. I would put it more in the general, in the third person, because that will build your credibility as a writer, as a researcher, and it removes you from the situation, it removes you from the paper, and it makes it more universal, that allows the reader then to be able to connect with it. If it's your experience, the reader can relate, I can relate, but then when it's made more of in a general sense, when it's made in the third person, then really anybody can relate to it. It becomes more universal. So I would avoid first person with this. I would avoid making it a personal statement. I would avoid saying, well, I have a friend or my family member or this or that, that has gone through this and I want to write about this, or I've gone through this situation. And personal experience can certainly motivate you to write, but take that personal experience and then make it universal to where it's applicable and relatable to really anyone. Okay, so on that point, just remember to remove yourself from the paper. And the reason why I say that also is because then it becomes, if you don't remove yourself, then it becomes more of a highly potentially emotional, potentially an emotive paper. Really, it becomes more about you rather than about the topic that you're writing, or can potentially become more about you. And I say that because I have seen that happen multiple times, when students write from personal experience and they want to include that, but then it begins to dilute the academic side. Okay, then it becomes more of a personal testimony rather than an academic research situation that's then backed up by credible evidence. Okay, so there's a big difference, unfortunately. And that's not to discredit anyone's personal experience. Of course, personal experience is valid, it's important, and it should be respected, and it should be acknowledged, of course. However, in an academic sense, it serves a different purpose. Personal experience serves a different purpose than the third person academic way of approaching it. Okay, I try not to overstate that, but I hope I made my point. So moving on. So you are going to then describe your pre-writing process. Describe it. What has taken place? What have you used in your pre-writing process? Has it been, free writing? Has it been listing? Has it been brainstorming? How have you done your critical thinking? How have you developed your topic? What was your process of topic development? What was your process of strategizing your main points? How did you come to develop your main points? Okay. And so you want to discuss those things and describe them for me, or for the reader, for this assignment. And this is just up to this point so far. It's not necessarily anticipating what further pre-writing you're going to do, but how is your pre-writing developed at this point? And as I said, that's brainstorming, that's listing, that's free writing, that's outlining. Have you done any outlining? And then also your research is considered pre-writing. How has your research informed your position and your research topic? Has it changed it? Has it repositioned it? Has it changed your strategy on what steps to take to really effectively support your topic? So it's very open-ended. I'm giving you ideas. Of course, the prompt is just asking you to discuss or describe your pre-writing process, but the how and the why in that are really going to be important. Okay. Now, following that is then discuss any challenges you anticipate in this process. And maybe even any challenges you've had thus far. What's been challenging to you thus far in your pre-writing, and then what are the challenges that you expect to experience as you move forward into the drafting stage. Yes, it can be challenging to sit down and write a 10-page paper. That's absolutely correct. And that's an experience that everyone has. It's not something that someone can just sit down and just finish in one night and think, hey, I'm a great writer. I can do this. It's a work in progress. So what are some challenges? Do you anticipate writer's block? Do you anticipate content issues? Are you going to be able to develop enough content to meet 10 pages? Those are common things that come up. Okay, and then following that on that point is, and how do you tentatively or anticipate, how do you plan to overcome them? What's your plan of action to overcome those issues? So what do you anticipate, or what have you experienced thus far that's been challenging, and how do you plan to overcome it? And maybe even how you've been overcoming what your existing challenges are at this moment. Okay, so that's the proposal. That's what I want to see. I want to understand where you're at and how this has all been working out for you, how it's been developing for you, what's working for you, maybe what's not working for you. What's the thesis? That's really key. Of course, I said last week that the thesis is the number one most important element of your paper. So if the thesis is correct, if the thesis gets set as a compass, it'll tell you the direction you're going to go, and it'll set the course and it'll lay out the path really to get you to that final paragraph of your paper. It's all right there in the thesis statement. So you should be able to read the thesis statement and the conclusion of a paper, and they should be mirror images of one another. Okay, and everything in between is just the process, to get you from that point A to point Z at the end of the paper. So that's just a brief discussion of this. Oh, and one last item here. It does require a works cited page. It's a formal assignment. And so we want to have that works cited with those 8 references listed at least. And we want this in a formal APA, MLA structure, format, as far as the heading is concerned, as far as the title, as far as the page numbers, the running head, all of those things that would be required by either AP or MLA. We want to approach this with that same formality for this assignment. My suggestion for this is to write to the rubric, look at the A category for the rubric, and write specifically to that. Follow the rubric specifically. Follow the prompt specifically. Unfortunately, if the assignment does not follow the prompt or does not provide the content necessary for the rubric, it can have an adverse effect on the grade. If there's a specific category that's missing that gives a points spread and it's not there, then those points can't be awarded for that category. It's just not there. So make sure you're hitting all of the necessary categories that are included in that rubric. If you, for some reason, miss one, unfortunately, those points can't be transitioned over into another category. They're all there to specifically develop your grade for that particular rubric. So again, just be sure you write to the rubric, thoroughly read the rubric, thoroughly read the prompt, and it's really just based on what I've just provided for this. I've just given a little bit of more, a little bit more commentary on it. So you should do fine. You should do well. It's very simple, just a one-page essay, really. Okay, you're looking at maybe 450 words. I think 4 paragraphs, 3 large paragraphs, um, double spaced. And so, good luck. And if you have any questions, please let me know. I can clarify anything further for you. And so then we'll, pick this up in the next 2 videos as far as any further details about this particular, not on this assignment, but just on the, uh, what's to be discussed further as far as the writing process. All right. Well, I'm going to leave it there for time, and certainly thank you, and hope everything's going well. Again, please let me know if there's anything else I can clarify. All right. Well, thank you very much.